Hello， 大家好，我是轰酷，欢迎收看轰酷看篮球，给你最及时具体的篮球解析。各位看到这个画面就知道，今天又是 reaction 类型的影片啦。最近我的麦克风收音品质都不是太好，这次我稍微调整了一下，欢迎大家在留言区跟我反映效果怎么样。这边我先跟你们说谢谢啦。那回到正题，这次 reaction 我抓的是 JJ 的影片，内容大概是他和搭档在聊公鹿这支球队。那刚好我想说也很久没有聊公鹿了，不如就来做一下。不过这次比较特别的是，影片里 JJ 有很多观点是我个人不太认同的。当然，我不敢说我比 JJ 懂篮球啦，只是他影片里面很多看法让我比较问号吧。Anyway， 等你们看了就知道了。那这边我也不废话了，直接进入今天的影片吧。
I want to talk about the Eastern Conference right now. I said this on Monday. It feels like the Boston Celtics have separated themselves, not just in the standings, but with how they're playing right now. I do think there's a number of teams that we can make an argument for or speculate could still win the Eastern Conference. So I want to get into all this. I want to actually start with the Milwaukee Bucks. They are 5-7 since Doc Rivers took over, but the defense is trending in the right direction. They are 10th in defense since Doc took over, and their offense has gone the other way. They're 21st in offense. But here's what I'm excited about. Their pick and roll defense. They were a bottom 10 team in pick and roll under Adrian Griffin. They are a top 5 team in pick and roll on defense. And you know what it comes down to? They are switching almost 25% more. Actually, more than 25% more. They're switching on defense more in pick and roll.
刚刚是 JJ 讲到换防的部分嘛？对，我知道在老河流来了之后，公鹿的挡拆防守进步很多。他们采取换防之后，很多球队的进攻都被限制住了。但我说真的，或许是在例行赛行得通，可是季后赛嘞，你季后赛换防哪可能阻止得了强队啊？今天在例行赛这招会有用，是因为你一旦换防，对方的持球者只要 level 不够，没办法把握那一拍的机会，那就是下楼嘛，或者是对方常人的错位能力不行，没办法打 mismatch， 一样是下楼。这情况或许会发生在例行赛，但季后赛嘞，先不要讲塞尔提克啦，光是换防打到骑士就不行啦。你把米球当手嘎哦，你觉得在换防的那刹那，米球不能小打大，或是抓时机喷3分吗？那我可怜。而且换防之后，假设比兹里要在低位守 Mobley， 这个画面我不敢想象呢。我认同老河流来了之后，有稍微改变公鹿的防守，但我是没有 JJ 那么乐观。我不认为这个改变到季后赛会有用哦。
I'm a firm believer that if this team defensively is good enough, they don't have to be great, and they've been pretty damn good since Doc took over. If they're good enough, offensively, Doc's gonna figure out how to maximize this offense. He did that with the Clippers team. He did that with James and Joel. He's going to figure out how to maximize this offense at some point.
And you're betting on 2 Hall of Famers,
of course,
and Chris Middleton.
小蛋鸡嘞！这里我不得不吐槽，你刚刚有听到 JJ 说什么吗？他说老河流有找到让 Harden 发挥的方法。干，你要确定呢？如果他真的有找到，老河流好像不会出现在公鹿总教练的位置哦。他今天会被76人开除，不就是因为地灯挡拆超级失败吗？只要一个正常发挥，另一个就必定落赛嘛。JJ 这句话我是没办法苟同啦。去年季后赛76人输的有多惨，相信大家都看在眼里。所以你要说老河流肯定能搞好公鹿的进攻，这个我是画上大大的问号啊。然后 Tom 这边我看马西在欧北贡啊，公鹿有2个准名人堂球星没有错，可是你觉得现在2024年的小李还有名人堂的水准吗？我是不这么认为啦。
So I wanted to ask about the Knicks as well, because the Knicks are 23-2 versus teams below 500, and they're 12-21 against teams that are above 500. And I'm not saying the Knicks don't have a shot to, make a run in the Eastern Conference or whatever it is. But with a team like Milwaukee, whenever they play a top team, you see it, they go and they smack Denver, they smack Minnesota the other night. Whenever they play a top team, you see what they can be. And so is there something with this team a little bit of like they've been there before and they're taking too many games off because they know that they are they know that they have the ability to turn it on once it gets to early May, mid-May?
Well, here's how I would look at it. I think when they were 30-13 under Griffin, it didn't feel visually like they were a really good basketball team. So despite the fact that they were winning, it didn't feel and look like a really good basketball team. They win their first game with an interim coach. Then Doc comes in, they're 5-7 cents. And like, I'll say this, like, Doc did take over in the middle of the season. He did take over in the middle of a road trip. That's hard to do. It's obviously hard to do. I think there was a little bit of an overreaction to the Bucks as title contenders. You think back to opening week of the season, them and the Boston Celtics had the best odds, plus 180, both to win the Eastern Conference. Celtics sit at plus 115 right now, and the Bucks are at plus 700, which is the third best odds. I'm looking at the Bucks and I'm thinking to myself, this is easily a team that can not only win the Eastern Conference, but win an NBA championship. Like, they have Giannis and they have Dame. They have a guy who's won a championship as a coach. Brook has been great. Chris Middleton has been great. Malik Beasley has shot the share of the ball. Their starting lineup for the season, not under Doc, not under Griffin, not under Prunty, for the season has like a net rating of like 15. They're a fucking good team.
OK， 这段我先回答Tom的问题好了。他开头有说尼克只会打烂队嘛，这个跟我的看法蛮像的。尼克的防守对上菜鸡是很有效，可是如果在季后赛，我就不这么认为了。季后赛尼克感觉还是差了一点啊。我知道今年 Randle 打出生涯年，然后 OG、Bogey 也是很屌，甚至 DiVincenzo 还射出了生涯最准的赛季。可是我就问一句啦，现在谁敢押宝尼克东冠？我自己是完全不敢赌啦。再来讲公鹿的部分，刚刚 JJ 他们的论点是公鹿到了季后赛就会认真了，可是我对这个一样不能认同啊！今年例行赛 Middleton 和小李的状况超级烂各位知道现在小李的3分命中率才34%吗？这是池哥等级的成绩哦，而且最近的池哥说不定还比较准。那Middleton就更不用说了，靠腰嘞，他这季例行赛场均还没有15分到底为什么这两位这么有自信，公鹿到季后赛就会恢复正常？我感觉没可能啊！例行赛烂那么久，季后赛突然爆冲，这个剧本对于老化的小李和大伤后的 Middleton 来说，是不是有点强人所难啊？再者，你说公鹿打强队很猛，可是现在他们跟骑士和赛率拼权都刚好是5成胜率啊，这样叫做主宰有很猛吗？我是看不出来啦。
Let me ask you about the Boston matchup. We don't want to get too much into it because you just covered it on Monday, but we've talked ad nauseum about Porzingis and the impact that he's had.
Yeah.
With Porzingis in particular and this defense humming at Bud levels, how do you think they would approach a matchup like Porzingis in the playoffs? Because that's obviously something that they haven't had to face before, and it's we haven't seen them play them since the new regime. So it's like where they're gonna sort of approach this differently with him.
They'd cross match. They put Giannis on Porzingis, switch across the board there, and they'd put Brook Lopez on Drew, which a number of teams have done this season. The only thing with that, we talked about this the other day. Drew has had sort of a different experience game to game. When he played for Milwaukee, he was the primary ball handler. He was a shot creator. He was a distributor, but he had the ball in his hands. This has been a different thing for him. Depending on matchups, he's been a spacer, and he's shot the shit out of the ball this year, but he's been a spacer at times. He's over in the corner. Sometimes he's a screener. He's not the primary guy, right? Joe Mazzulla and the Boston Celtics know this. He's the guy that a lot of teams are cross-matching the big on so that they can switch with Porzingis. Now, the only thing with that I'll say, again, is that when Kristaps Porzingis gets a mismatch, he's having the most efficient post-up season in NBA history, well, in the tracking era of the NBA, going back to 2013, 2014. So you still run into some issues. It's not like, we're going to switch across the board and all our issues against the Boston Celtics are solved. There's still a lot to be done. But I think to answer your question, that's how they would start that series, I would assume, is just cross-matching.
哎呦，这边我就看不懂了。这两个在讨论公鹿要怎么打赛率，拜托几个嘞，这有什么好担心的？有什么是电一下不能解决的 ？KP 那么玻璃，稍微摸一下他就要回去选总统啦，是不是？好笑吗？好啦，不讲干话了。我是认为公鹿到头来还是守不住赛率，就算字母和大罗再怎么会防守，篮球毕竟是5个人打的游戏，场上其他的洞还是太多啦。我不否认密尔瓦基是强队，他们绝对不烂，可是想拿冠军，我觉得还是差那么一点啦。好了，那今天的影片差不多这样子，喜欢我的影片记得按赞、订阅、加分享。红看篮球，我们下次再见喽，拜拜。